This is episode number 632 of the Inner Fight Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Thanks a lot, no matter where you are in the world, for downloading the show. Appreciate you guys, appreciate you listening, and I massively appreciate our show sponsors, Smith Street Paleo. Go check them out, smithstreetpaleo.com, or send them an email, hello@smithstreetpaleo.com, or get on the website, like I said, cook some of the food for yourself. It tastes real good. Those of you that follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I cook the bread every single week. It is awesome. It tastes good. You guys need it in your life. Today's guest is a gentleman that actually spoke on the Inner Fight Endurance Sunday sessions just last week. He goes by the name of Adam Mayhew. And when I heard him on Inner Fight Endurance Sunday sessions, I was like, we've got to get that guy on the podcast. He can teach people so much. So many people will resonate. Not that everyone's been through the highs and the lows that Ads has been through, but there's just so much learning here. And a lot of people are definitely fighting a lot of the battles he was fighting. So I got hold of him, we zoomed it up, and here you have Adam Mayhew. No matter where you are in the world, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, enjoy the Inner Fight Podcast. And if you enjoy it, rate it, review it in iTunes, and please share it with a friend. That's how we grow organic reach. For now, let's hear from Ads. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. And today, as I was saying there, very inspirational story. He'll play it down, but from very close to where I'm also from in the UK, Adam Mayhew, welcome to the show, mate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me on. It's a pleasure to be.
I didn't realize Knaresborough. Just Knaresborough. What a lad.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. From that little town, little Yorkshire town.
Right, your accent is still quite strong, isn't it? You've definitely not lost that.
No, I realised when I watched that video back, I was like, I've got a really strong Yorkshire accent.
Yeah. For those that don't know what we're talking about, I'm from the north of England, a little place called York, and Adam is from Knaresborough's probably about half an hour. I used to play actually rugby in Harrogate, which is close by as well.
Yeah, Harrogate's just up the road.
Yeah. Mate, give us a little bit of a background then on yourself. Let's kick off there. I mean, the basis of this is you did a super powerful talk on the Inner Fight Endurance sort of inner circle talk a few weeks ago. Yeah. And I was like, we've got to tell this story on the podcast. So let's kick off from there, mate. Give us a little bit of background on maybe growing up, what life was like, just so folks can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, so, I as we've already mentioned, Knaresborough. So I grew up in a little town called Knaresborough, which is in the northern part of England. I had a very normal sort of childhood. Parents were, very strict and good upbringing, and I went to church every weekend, and I've got an older brother and older sister that I looked up to. So a very normal sort of childhood. Yeah, breezed through school. Had a lot of fun and things, and when I left school, I didn't go to university. I left at the age of left sixth form at the age of 18. And I left my family home as well, and I bought a flat. Well, sorry, I didn't buy a flat, so I rented a flat. So I obviously went off into the world in my own little way. I kind of got a little bit addicted to bodybuilding. I think it was when I look back now, I think it was something to do with school. I wasn't really bullied or anything at school, but my nickname was sort of skinny guy. And
right.
As my sort of friends went off to university, and I was one of the guys that didn't go to university, I think I sort of had to prove myself, So when they were off further down the country studying, I was like, right, well, when they come back, they're going to see how much I've changed, I just started, lifting weights and started reading all the bodybuilding books, and I got quite addicted to it, really. I started taking all the protein and the creatine, and 6 meals a day, and I very quickly started to put weight on, put mass on. I also got into some of the other sort of stronger supplements like pro hormones, obviously they're pretty much anabolic steroids. I think some of the ones I was taking back then, you can't get them anymore. I think they banned them. But
you used to be able to get them at the local shop, though.
Yeah. I think you could just buy them on the internet.
Yeah.
They used to get banned, and I think around the time people were telling me that the companies would bring them out again, but they just move a little molecule to the right or something, and it comes out as something else. And by the government get their hands on it, that's like 2 or 3 years away. So I don't know.
Can I jump in there? Because we see a lot of, and I know, obviously, without spoiling it, some of your story is about addiction and stuff. And I'm always interested to see or to try and understand how these things start. So, you've started doing bodybuilding. What would lead you to take steroids in simple terms? How did that come around?
I think when I look back, sort of 18, 19, I remember, like looking in the mirror and not being happy with the way I looked,
right?
Not being happy with my body. And I remember at the time I used to have, you can see my collarbone sticking up.
Right.
When you got into the gym and you meet the guys that are older than you and they've been sort of training for whatever 10 years and these are big guys, and you start to learn more. And to answer your question, it's addictive. You just get addicted to it, and you see the size, and then I think you see people commenting on you. So when you're starting to put on size, just taking protein and creatine and things, when you go out, people start complimenting and saying, "Oh, God, you put on weight. You look how ripped you're looking." And you're like, "Ah, yeah, I like this. This is good." Girls saying things. There I am, 20 years old, whatever, 19, 20, and people are complimenting, and okay, I'm going to keep going.
So you're sort of feeding off like other people are feeding your emotions in a way, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I mentioned this last week in the presentation I did. The 5 people you hang around with, they're crucial to your success, and you're the average of those 5 people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think for me it was, I've always looked up to people. I've always looked at people and thought, oh, I want to be like that. So like you said, yeah, it was other people influencing and fueling it, basically.
So you start taking steroids and obviously probably get bigger, mate. Continue on the journey. This could be interesting. Did your old fella shrink at all? I've always wanted to ask that.
Yeah, we've got a couple of pictures of me and my old man, and yeah, I'm like this, and he's sort of copying me, and but I remember even he said for years, he said it, you need to slow down, son. Yeah, what's all this bodybuilding? What, just slow down. You don't need to do it. And it just went over the top of my head. I think it was the ego thing as well. It was just like, I'm now nicknamed the big guy, and I've got to maintain that saying, oh, here's the big guy. So I think it went to my head, and yeah, so start taking more things. And
where did that take you?
Well, obviously, yeah. Around that time, sort of the people I hang around with, my friends and I, we're young, 19, 20, 21, 22, around that time, and you start experimenting with things. And just to rewind back a little bit, in my teenage years, I had sort of experimented with cannabis and things like that.
Right. And
also, the area that we lived in, that I'm from, Harrogate, it is known for its drug use. I think, I can't remember what the stats are, but they say every 1 in 5 or something has tried some drug. I can't remember the full stats on that, so don't quote me on that. But it is one of the drug capitals of the north, apparently. One of the areas, it's and Harrogate, when you go out in Harrogate, it does have that sort of, I now call them weekend millionaires. There's people out flashing the cash, but I think they're just weekend millionaires. So I sort of fell into that trap. And yeah, I started to take other things, recreational drugs. And yeah, you start to get it. I wouldn't say I was addicted to it, but you know, maybe once or twice a month, I was consuming, Class A drugs to.
How did that feel, mate?
Well, it feels good. Obviously, at the time, you know, I thought it felt good. You know, the sort of drug of choice at the time was cocaine, ketamine. Jeez, when I think back now, wow.
Yeah.
Very strong. The tranquilizer. That was sort of the drugs of choice there, and MDMA, which is, you know, ecstasy and things. How did it? What was your question? How did it feel?
Yeah, like, I mean, I've never taken drugs, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in the whole experience in a way of maybe, you know, what gets you there, and then, I mean, because it's a whole experience, isn't it? Like, maybe it's not, mate, but I'm sort of thinking it's almost like when you're going to buy something in a way, and it's probably totally different, but it's like we get a little bit excited because we're going to buy a new shirt or a new car or something like that. And and this is, I mean, cocaine plays with the dopamine in our brains. That's exactly how the blood works. And when we buy something, we release dopamine. It's the happy hormone, and we feel really good. And then we wake up the next day, and sometimes we're like, oh shit, I actually shouldn't have spent that much money on that thing, or we're totally happy with it. And some people can, so I'm interested sort of maybe talk us through the different steps of taking drugs, mate. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really sort of remember back to the first time I did it. But you know, I think it was just the people I was hanging around with were just sort of experimenting. Someone had some, and, you know, you just take a little bit, and then obviously it starts to take effect, and you think, oh, this feels quite good. And exactly what you just said about dopamine, you know, it's the reward.
Yeah.
But I think you start to feel a bit invincible.
Right.
But, you know, your confidence goes through the roof more than alcohol. So, you know, for example, if it's like cocaine, you'll be talking to people and you're on fire. You know, your brain is going, and you can just talk about anything. You know, and you get into quite deep conversations with people, or maybe you're chatting to girls and things. And it's just a constant buzz. You know, it obviously it feels good. And and obviously maybe the weekend that follows, you know, someone's got it. You're like, oh yeah, I had a really good time on that last week. Yeah, go on, I'll have a little bit. And then you have a bit more, and a bit more, and a bit more. And I think it's the reward. It's the reward. It's what it is.
Yeah. Wow. And what about like the next day? How do you feel?
Like shit.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, you do. Obviously, it's just like a hangover, you know. But I think obviously when you're on maybe another type of drug, maybe if you're on like MDMA, it is a bit different. It's like a very the hangover is a very harsh hangover. And it's the knock-on effect, isn't it? You end up making a fry-up breakfast. You just binge watch TV, and you sit there eating cookies and rubbish, and just doing anything to try and make yourself feel good.
When do you actually start to feel better, though?
I think maybe like a day afterwards.
Wow.
So, yeah, because you don't really, obviously, if on alcohol, you don't really get a good night's sleep, do you? And when the drug's taken over, you really don't sleep. Your dreams are crazy, vivid, and it's not good. They're quite repetitive, and it's going to the beat of the music, and that's not good. So the next day, a lot of it is sleeping. You're actually catching up on that sleep. But I think, when I look back, anyone who's listening in, my career, it never affected my career, or maybe it did. I'm always hard working when, I go to the office, and always very hard working and things. So, but did it affect my career, like, running late and things like that? No, it didn't. And, it wasn't every weekend. It might just be once a month or twice a month we'd do. Yeah. So. Yeah,
it's very interesting, though, isn't it? Like, I'm always interested because it's human behavior and it's the psyche around it as well. But something in that moment, like you said, there's some friends there and you do it and you feel maybe great for this short time, but then you're paying it back the next day, the whole day, the next night. So, I mean, maybe you were supersonic, mate, because you manage to hold down jobs, but people that get in that scenario, maybe they're not going to work on a Monday morning, and the whole knock-on effect is carnage. So super interesting, mate. Continue on the journey though. You've moved out. You're 20. You're massive. You're taking anabolic steroids during the week. You're taking recreational drugs on the weekend. You bought like you're literally at the mercy of every dealer in Harrogate.
Yeah.
Continue the journey for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was sort of like, I was working hard and then fueling this lifestyle. And I think I was sort of living a life which was going to work Monday to Friday, working hard, driving around at the time I had, a nice company car, wearing the suit and had the laptop, the mobile phone. I was driving all over the UK, and then heading back up north at the weekend, and just getting on it. That was my life. And obviously in the evenings, I was just throwing weights around, and that's pretty much what my life was for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, and then also, when it came to sort of 2011, when I was about 25 years old, what I planned to do was, one of my friends out of the same circle of friends he'd gone traveling. He'd gone to Cambodia and Thailand, and my plan was to meet him in Australia.
Wow.
I didn't mention this on the presentation the other night, but he actually passed away when he was traveling. So that obviously hit us hard, myself and my friends. And around that time in 2011, I was just, I've got to run away. I've got to get away. I was just stuck in this cycle, really, of just working, lifting weights and going out at the weekend. And I'd always was curious about sort of going to live somewhere else. And during that time, I traveled, I'd been to Europe and I'd been to Thailand before and things like that on holiday. But I wanted to experience living somewhere else. And I was always curious about sort of Australia. And the plan was to meet my friend there. But unfortunately, he passed away. And I decided, when, obviously we had his funeral and everything. And when that was all done, I still went off. So it was around November 2011, I flew out to Australia and I backpacked and had an amazing time. Yeah, I just backpacked up that East Coast, met loads of people.
Wow.
Interesting people. There was people sort of my age at the time. There was people who had finished university. There was people in their 30s as well that were just having sort of like a little bit like a midlife crisis, and they were just trying to get away. So, backpacked up and up the East Coast, and then I flew from the East Coast to Perth, and I sort of settled in Perth. Got a job there, had a couple of different jobs in IT and recruitment. And then, towards the end, I'd say 11, 12 months I've been in Australia. Started to sort of, I would say, maybe started to lose it a little bit. I was still partying a lot and things, but I started to experience quite a lot of anxiety. I think I was a little bit homesick maybe as well, but there was something else bubbling underneath. So I remember calling my parents and saying, I'm coming home. So I got on a plane and flew back to England and saw my friends, saw my family, and I was immediately sort of welcomed back. And I embraced those comforts of home. And it's funny, I remember one of my mates that I'd met in Australia, on the day that, I think it was on the week before I left, he said, "You're going to regret this." He goes, "You'll fly back and you'll enjoy the first 3 months and you're going to wish you were back in Australia. Mark my word." And he was right. And for the first 3 months, as I say, I embraced the family and friends. But I was having a few sort of mental health issues. I was starting to overthink things a lot. And I think I had changed a little bit in Australia because I wasn't really I didn't take any drugs in Australia. I was still drinking a lot. I didn't take any drugs.
Why was that, mate? Sorry to jump in. Why was that?
I think the people I was hanging around with weren't really into that. And also I was in a foreign country and I know they're very strict over there. At the time, they were very, very strict on it. And I just didn't want to risk anything. I'm sure you've seen Locked Up Abroad. I didn't want to be one of those people. So I think, I didn't consume any of that. I didn't take any of it. I wasn't really associated with people who were doing that.
Right.
So when I came back, I think I changed a little bit in that sense, but I sort of felt that for me to fit back in my friends, I need to do that again. I started to sort of do that again. And then one day something just completely broke me down. And I had to sort of confess everything to my parents. They knew something wasn't quite right. And basically what I had done was, over the years, I accumulated up to £25,000 worth of debt. I was in quite a good job at the time. It was a well-paid job. But I was just spending money way beyond my means. I was living way beyond my means.
Yeah.
And it really started to catch up with me. And obviously I was struggling at the time to sort of pay back the debt and things. So I think in my head, I had obviously, how are you supposed to keep up with yourself and your friends are inviting you out, but you can't go out. I think it started to affect me mentally. Well, it did, and I broke down in front of my parents and told them everything. And so I had to.
How was that, mate? How was that? Confronting it, because I think it's sometimes I don't know, this is my perspective and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I can tell you because you're a mate, and I respect you and I love you. But when it's your parents, when we know that they've done so much for us, and it's almost like we're back that kid at school, isn't it? It's like, well,
it was exactly that. Yeah. I remember just sat there, and we were sort of talking. Because they said something. My dad was like, "What's wrong, son? What's wrong?" I was like, "Okay." And then I just said it. I'm in a lot of debt. I've been living a life, and I'm struggling. He wasn't a happy man to start with. But I had to sort of explain it all, and my mum was actually really supportive. She was like, "Right, okay, we've got a problem. Let's have a look at it." So we sort of got the bank statements out and everything, and really looked at it all, and okay, what's going on here? But I think there was a few other things as well. I didn't like the job that I was in. Because what happened was, the job that I was doing before I went to Australia, when I flew back from Australia back to the UK, I went straight back into that same job. So before I left Australia, I rang my sort of managing director at the time. I rang him and said, look, I'm coming back. And my job was there waiting for me.
Wow.
The company car, the mobile phone, there's the salary. It was just there. I landed back into the UK, and 2 days later, there's the company car, all back, just like that.
Wow.
I know. So, and I think I'd realized sort of a few months into it that I was like, oh, I don't want to be doing this. This is, nah, you know, I'm sort of going back into that lifestyle again. No, it's not good. And obviously I had the debt, and, you know, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, my debt was wiped. So my parents wiped it. I'm very, very lucky, but I paid back every single penny. Yeah, it took me 3.5 years to pay it all back.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was actually struggling because of the interest on the loans and the credit cards. I was struggling. I was never going to pay it off.
Yeah.
It had been there for years. So yeah, my parents saw that what happened, and they were not happy at all. They were not happy. But I made sure I paid it back, all of it.
So were you living at home at this stage as well?
Yeah, so I was basically, I moved back into my parents for when I got back from Australia for the first year. And then, I met someone, which is now my wife. She sort of came along and rescued me. And believe it or not, we ended up living with her parents. So
it happens.
It happens. Yeah, it was around that time. It was quite tough, and I was paying off my debt, but I was also saving money as well. So we were saving to buy our first house. So we lived with her parents for 2 years. Yeah, we saved up.
Hey, at this stage, let's talk a little bit about your addictions, shall we? And I'm not trying to make it look bad on you, but we've been, and I just think they're great learnings for people, mate. And I know the next stage is just this amazing transformation that I know you speak really strongly about. So just to give it a little bit more background. So, you're into bodybuilding, you start taking steroids there, harder drugs. Australia sort of releases you, but you come back to all this debt. What were your social habits now? Were you using drugs? Were you using alcohol? Where were you at with things?
Well, so I've come back from Australia. I've been back for a while. Yeah. Yeah, I was still going out. So, if my friends invited me out, I would go out with them. I wasn't probably doing it as much, but yeah, I'd maybe sort of once a month, I might have a little bit more drugs. But also, interestingly, around that time, I had met a group of guys down at the gym. So I was still sort of going to the gym, lifting weights and things, and I met a group of guys there who were not part of my normal circle of friends.
Right.
They were a lot younger. They were about 5 years younger than me, 4 or 5 years younger than me, and they were good guys. They were sensible, They went out, but they didn't get completely intoxicated. They'd never done drugs, and they just sort of invited me out and things, and invited them to their house and stuff. And I hung around with them for a little bit, and they were really good to me. They were very, very good for me. But I remember I was still sort of hanging on to those old habits as well. So I'd spend time with them, but then I'd spend time with, my other friends as well, and go out drinking with them and things. And then I met Fran. So I met my wife. So things started to change.
Why is that, mate? Why did they start to change?
Well, I think when I met Fran, it was actually at a festival. I'm going to be really honest. I was under the influence. I was under the influence of alcohol and drugs, and the moment I met her, I stopped there. I didn't take any more.
What?
Yeah.
What made you do that?
I don't know. At the time, I thought that, you know, obviously, if she sees me doing this, that's not look very good, is it? In front of someone. And I think at the time we clicked like that when we met. And yeah, wow. I remember just throwing it away. I threw the bag away.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That that's really incredible, huh?
Yeah. So, yeah.
You could say your savior. She was your savior. She just walked into your life literally at the right time.
She did, yeah. And I sort of stood down that presentation. She walked straight in. She didn't know it at the time, but she did. She did rescue me. Yeah. It was very timing.
But you decided on the spot that you'd stop taking drugs, but were you still drinking? What was your relationship like with alcohol?
Yeah, I was still sort of binge drinking. And yeah, around that time and, you know, months afterwards, you know, as a couple, we would obviously, you know, we'd go out and things and see friends and drink and things. But also maybe if I was just going out with friends without her, I would be binge drinking. I would definitely go out and I'd get absolutely wasted. Yeah.
Did Fran drink?
Yeah, she did. Yeah. You know, no more than her peers, you know. Yeah, she drinks. Yeah, she did drink a lot. Yeah.
There was a pivotal point in that talk that you gave, mate, that I distinctly remember about when you decided that you would end your relationship with alcohol. Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, my wife and I moved to Dubai. That was in 2016. I knew what I'd learned from being in Australia. I knew that going to live somewhere else and experience a different culture it's a very good thing to do. So we made a decision to move over to Dubai. We both got jobs here very, very quickly. But yeah, we found a new habit, and that was brunch. You know, I remember in here and I was like, brunch? What? Isn't that thing between lunch and lunch? You just have like some cake or something? I don't know. I was like, oh no, it's not. It's 12 hours of drinking. Oh, right. Okay. That's what brunch is. Wow. And obviously when you get to a new city and you don't know anyone, do you? And you've got to go out and meet people and meet friends and things. And we were staying in the accommodation, which the sort of accommodation that we were in, it was mostly teachers. So our friends were sort of teachers and their partners. So my friends became sort of Fran's friends' husbands. They became my friends here, and they're still my friends here now. But yeah, obviously you're in a new place, you're in a new city, and you're exploring things. Everything's new. So we were out a lot drinking at the weekends. Maybe on a Thursday night, we would finish. We wouldn't drink during the week. It was just on a Thursday night, finish work, we'll go out and we'll drink. And then at brunch, probably do brunch the next day. And that was pretty much for the first 12 to 18 months of being in Dubai. That's what we were doing. And I remember sort of saying to Fran once, I was like, we're not, do you feel like we're not doing anything? We're both working really hard at our jobs. We're going 100% at our jobs. We come home and then we go to the gym. I don't really have any goal in the gym. I'm just sort of potting around, throwing weights around. I'm still splitting my sessions like a bodybuilder. I don't really have any goal in that sense. I'm just going in there and just lifting weights, doing my chest and my biceps, And then the weekend comes and we just go out and get drunk. Like, I'm not learning anything new. I just feel like I'm getting a bit, not dumber, but I don't know. I just feel like I'm not learning anything new.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started to sort of, actually, I watched a documentary on about nutrition. I started to sort of get a little bit curious about the food I was eating. And that's where it all sort of started. Got a bit curious about the food I was eating, and I started to, I did a bit of, read about a few things. I started to follow some people, and they were meditating. And I thought, oh, what's this meditation all about? Oh, I'll just give it a go. Yeah, so I just sort of sat down, and I signed up to, I gave it a try, the Calm app. Put the headphones in, and I just sat there and I just listened to what she was saying and focus on your breath. I thought, oh, that was quite good. And I did it again the next day, and then again the next day, and the next day. And I sort of built this habit of meditating every day. And yeah, things started to change. There's a bit of a ripple effect. So, we were still sort of going out at the weekends drinking, and I was like, because I think I started to get a bit more mindful of what I was doing, I was like, I don't know if what is this stuff? It's weird. You go through school and no one tells you what alcohol is. No one teaches you. It's just in society, especially in the UK, you just grow up with it. Like, as alcohol, drink this. And I started to, what is this stuff? And I started to research it. I started to read into it. And this was sort of around the same time I'm quite interested about nutrition. It's like, oh. So I started to sort of learn what happens when you drink it, right the way through, when it goes through you, what happens, how it affects your brain, how it affects right down to cellular level. I started to get quite interested in that. And yeah, it was one time I was really hungover, and we were hanging out in a hotel. We got like a day, a pool pass, just for the day, and we were staying in, went to the hotel for a day. And I remember just sort of lying there, and I was like, oh my days, I'm hungover, and I've been here 1,000 times before. Am I just getting older? I don't know, but I was worrying about going to work the next day. I was really worried about it, and there was a lot of anxiety, and I was worried about maybe I'm not going to hit sort of these sales targets that I was working on. I'm like, oh. And then I remember watching that film Limitless. You've probably seen the film Limitless, when he takes that pill. And I was like, oh, I wish I could just have something like that, something to really clear my mind and my head. I need something, just all this mess that's going on in my head. I need some clarity. And I actually went online, and I looked up, I can't remember, it was some just a pharmacy in the Middle East, in Dubai, and they were selling these sort of the herbal pills, just energy herbal pills. And I thought, I'll buy that. Yeah, and I bought them and started to take them. When I think back now, I'm like, what was I doing? But anyway, yeah, I went, it was April 2018, and it was a month before my stag do, bachelor party, and I had a little issue with my stomach. I actually had gastritis, and I was taking some, and the doctors put me on antibiotics. So I'd actually, at that point, I wasn't drinking any alcohol, and I actually did 30 days with no alcohol. And I'd never done that from the moment I first tried alcohol. I'd never done that. I'd never done a dry January or sober October. Yeah, and in those 30 days, although I was on antibiotics, and I'm still sort of curious about the food I'm eating and what I'm doing, I started to feel quite good. Ooh, clarity. Oh, here's some clarity. Oh, God, I feel a bit more energetic. Maybe it's the food I'm eating. Maybe I've got curious about my sleep as well. We're supposed to have 8 hours sleep a night? I didn't know that. I'm getting like 6. Wow. Okay. Well, let's learn a bit more about that, about sleep. And then stag do's come in. The guys here had organised stag do up at Rixos in Ras Al Khaimah.
Oh,
2 days. I was like, I don't want to drink. I don't want to drink. I don't want it. I don't think I want any alcohol. I was like, I wonder what the guys will say if I said that I'm not going to drink. I was like, no, that's not going to happen. How can it? You can't have a sober stag on a stag do. So we did the stag do, 2 days drinking, everything, the usual stuff. And I was checking out at the hotel the next day, and my bride called me and she just said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm not in a good way. I'm hungover, and I know I've said this 1,000 times. I'm not doing this again, but this time I mean it. I'm done putting this stuff in my body.
wow.
Oh, I'm done with it. That's it. I'm done." And yeah, that was it.
Really? So from that day, 2018, you haven't touched any alcohol?
Well, I haven't been, I have had some, but I've not been under the influence. So what happened was, I did 3 months after the stag. I did 3 months completely sober, and then I went back to the UK, and we had our wedding back in the UK. And the night before the wedding, I met up with with the guys, my best man, and we had a beer, and I was like, I don't know if I want this, but I decided to get one, and it was a proper Yorkshire ale, So I've not had one of these in a while, and we'll put it this way: it took me an hour and a half to drink 1 pint.
Wow.
And I drank that much, and I was drunk.
Wow.
Yeah, I was drunk. And I remember I was there, and I'm with my best man and the guys, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like what it's doing to me. I feel a bit drunk, and I can't do it. And I said to the guys, sorry guys, but yeah, it's going to take me a while to get through this drink. And they were like, oh, fine, no worries, mate, whatever. And actually what happened on our wedding day, what I had done was at the venue where we were getting married, I told the organizer that when we arrive, after we're married and we arrive at the reception and you hand over the champagne, I don't want champagne. And he said, don't worry, I'll do like elderflower and fizzy water. I'll make it look like champagne. I was like, thanks, man. So in our pictures, in our wedding photographs, you think it's champagne there, but it's not.
Wow. Wow.
It's not champagne. Yeah.
So you didn't, you didn't really have a drink at your wedding or anything?
Well, what happened at the wedding, I had a few non-alcoholic beers. So also, when I set it up with the barman, so that when I went to the bar, he knew who I was. There's the groom. So he got my drink, which was non-alcoholic beer.
Wow.
People wanted, my friends, my family wanted to buy me a beer. And when they did that, what I found was, because I'm sure obviously you're married, like you're so busy on your wedding day that, someone gets you a drink and then you put it down because someone wants a photograph, and you got to go cut the cake, and you got to do this and you got to do that. And people bought me drinks that I was about to go get a sip. I didn't even sip it. I just put it down, and then I was like, oh, and then I'm off cutting the cake, or I'm off taking a photograph. So I was completely sober on my wedding day. Completely sober.
Good for you, mate. And
I remember every moment of it. And some people that I speak to, some of my friends, they were intoxicated and they can't remember anything. And I remember every moment. So,
mate, fast forward now a couple of years later, and obviously, you're into OCR, you like running and this and that and the other, which is amazing, mate. But I think some of the biggest learnings from this, and I think maybe what might resonate with people, if you're happy, if we continue a little bit down the alcohol route, how's your relationship with it? Because I know, mate, lots of people are fighting it. But luckily we're like 45 minutes in, and it's the first time we've had to mention coronavirus. But since the lockdown, I've heard more people drinking. So we really want to sort of in this last bit, just try and help people with it, mate. So what's your relationship with alcohol now?
I think when you stop, it does feel a little bit weird to start with, you know, because my identity it was part of my identity, a part of who I was. So I was going out and my mates were saying, do you want to drink? I was like, no, I don't. You know, and you start to feel a little bit weird, but over time you start to build up, you know, when you're talking to people, it's more genuine, it's more you, it's more authentic. So you start to build up more confidence. And what happened is your perception, your vision starts to open up beyond alcohol. You know, it's really weird because the manufacturers, you know, the brewers or whatever, tell you that through their powerful marketing campaigns that for you to have fun, you've got to have a drink. You know, I find it really strange that football and alcohol and beer is linked together.
So
very
strange. Yeah.
Weird. Carling and football, you see the adverts in the UK. It's really weird. None of the football players are drinking it.
Yeah. But all the fans are
all intoxicated watching it. It's really, really weird. So my relationship with it now is non-existent. I just look, when I look at a bottle, it's like looking at a bottle of, well, not like looking at a bottle of water, but it's just like, I just go, oh okay. Yeah. I don't want it.
Do you think that's because you had a extreme relationship with it and it caused you so many different, what would you say, mate? I
think what it is, like, I saw so many benefits when I removed it from my life. I mean, to start with, when I look at it, I go, oh, I don't want that because I'm going to fall back to that way, thinking how I was before. And I like this journey that I'm on. Wow. I'm sober and it's like I'm learning all these things and new things. And I want to stay on this path. You know, this is a good path. This is a healthy path. So I think obviously alcohol has presented itself over the last 2 years, and and every time it presents itself, there's two words that go through my head: think tomorrow. What do I want to get out of tomorrow? Yeah. And that's a big difference to how I was living before, because my wife and I now we know what we're doing tomorrow. I think before we used to sort of get up and go, what do you want to do today? This is on the weekend, for example. What do you want to do today? Oh, you can go do this. Whereas we know what I'm doing. Everything it's locked in the diary. I know what I'm doing the next day. And, at the weekends, if alcohol presents itself, I'm like, think tomorrow. Well, tomorrow I'm going for a run. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. I'm going to Shoka. I'm going to the mountains. If I drink that, I ain't going. I'm not getting up. It's this is what I was learning as well, that it was affecting my decisions. This is what I'd realized for years. Yeah. All those years I was procrastinating. It was the alcohol. Yeah. It was affecting my decisions the next day and what I wanted to get out of.
Do you think that's because of the relationship that you had with alcohol, mate? Do you think if you'd have been in a different position when you were using alcohol in former years and you'd have actually done the things that you do now and said, yeah, I'm going to go and run at Shoka at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Therefore, I know to make that happen, I need to be in bed by 9 and I don't need to be drunk. So if I want to go and have a beer with a mate, I need to go at 6. I need to be done by 7, or is that piece too grey and too?
I think it's multiple things. It's like what you said. Everyone's relationship with alcohol is different. Just like everyone has a unique relationship with food, and it's a similar thing to those people who drink, whether they're an occasional drinker, a social drinker, a binge drinker, or maybe they just have one drink a month. Relationship is unique. But one of the things that I'd figured out was, because people still ask me, why don't you just have one a month? Because I'd been practicing mindfulness, I'd realized when I was out, I'd realized I didn't like who I was when I was under its influence. I didn't like my thought process.
Yeah.
I want to say that it caused me to judge other people. So if I was drinking, I would look across the bar, or there's someone's talking to me, and I'll be judging them.
Yeah.
Who am I to judge you? And I was judging myself. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I've got quite a good idea. Maybe, oh no, I can't do that. I was just, judging myself and things like that. So I think that's my relationship with it. And I realized as I removed that, and along with mindfulness, I started to stop sort of judging people. And I started to learn that actually, when we judge people and judge or when you feel judged, you're basically, you're wasting time really. It's wasted energy, and you could be learning from that other person.
Yeah.
And here's a quick example. Like, I remember, when we got to Dubai, and for the first sort of 18 months we were here and we were out drinking all the time, there was someone that we know, or we know of. It was one of my wife's sort of colleagues at work. And when I was intoxicated, I would ignore him. Well, I wouldn't ignore him. I'd just say hello, but I didn't really bother to sort of get to know him. I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe the thing he said, and I didn't quite like it. And I just see him when I'm out, and I say, "Hi, mate. How are you?" And then I just go off.
Yeah.
When I stopped drinking, and I saw him, I spent time with him. I started having a conversation with him, and I started asking loads of questions, started to build some rapport. And it turned out, actually, he's quite an interesting guy. And I learned a few things from him. I was like, geez, yeah. And I think that's what it was doing to me. It was changing I didn't like who I was. I was judging other people, and now I have more clarity, and along with the mindfulness, if I feel sort of the judging coming into my head, I can capture it and go, well, yeah, and just positive,
Yeah, it's interesting, mate, because I like how you also brought food in there, because I agree with exactly what you said. I think for some people, the relationship they have with certain, what we're talking about here really is vices. And it sort of links back to what we said at the start, where you were like, yeah, I need more of that drug. And it's the same for people. Like, I always say this to people. I'm like, chocolate, if you have 40 grams of chocolate a week, is it going to kill you? Is it going to be the difference between the 6-pack or not the 6-pack? No, not really. Is it great for you? No. But if that's the one thing, if you have 40 grams of chocolate once a week, and that's all you have, and you can control it to that, and that gives you satisfaction, makes you feel amazing, then I'm all ready for you to have that. But if you can't have that decent relationship with it, and if you go on to then have more chocolate, and then when you've had the chocolate, have something else, and it's this whole knock-on effect, which is quite similar to what we were talking about earlier with drugs. Then we have to it's almost like a bad marriage that we have to separate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which makes it, it just makes it super interesting, mate, because I think a lot of people are thinking that they should separate their relationship from certain things, but not knowing why. But you've understood your relationship, in this case with alcohol, and realized that actually your personality doesn't mix with it. So we need to separate it. And you've found the tools that help you to do that. And now you're just enjoying the benefits of not having this. It's like having a shit friend or being in a bad marriage. You've sort of split it apart, and now you just feel so happy.
Exactly. That's the thing, that along with other things, not just alcohol, I started to remove the things that weren't good for me. Get rid of it. And that, unfortunately, that did apply to people. It should apply to people, right? I mean, that's for real. Yeah. So, obviously surrounded myself with, joined in a fight and the running communities, surrounded myself with athletes, with people who want to win. And it's just a completely different world. And it turns out there is a world where people don't drink.
Yeah.
The friends that I've met, especially within in the running communities and things, like, it turns out they don't drink. They might have one every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
I thought, it's really weird. I thought when everyone went out, everyone was drinking, but they're not.
Yeah.
So it's just...
That's one thing as well, isn't it? Like, to be comfortable, like I drink alcohol, but I'm also comfortable to go to a bar and meet people and have a drink, have a sparkling water whilst they have a beer. But as soon as they've had enough beers, that I know that, I'm very similar to you in this, mate. If I know that I'm not going to have a productive conversation with them, either be able to learn something from them or them to be able to learn something from me or just have a good time, then I'll leave that situation. And that's obviously for most people, once they've had 3 or 4 beers, then it's kind of like, it's pointless having the conversation basically, isn't it? You know, but I'm still comfortable to go and have a sparkling water and just hang out in that environment, which I think a lot of people create this relationship or create this thought process in their own mind that, yeah, everyone, if you're in a bar, you should be drunk, whereas that's not really the case.
Yeah. And some people, obviously there's different types of drinkers. There's, and like I said before, everyone, obviously got their unique relationship, but some people, like the social drinkers, they don't know it the other way. And they can't imagine their life, going out in a social situation and not drinking. And like I said, at the start, it is a little bit weird, but you start to build this confidence, and that confidence is genuine. It's authentic. Yeah. It's you. It's not influence of the alcohol.
Yeah.
But we know what it does, so.
Mate, I'm pretty conscious of the time, mate, and I really appreciate it because you did an hour talking about this last Sunday, and now I've grilled you for another hour, but I just think it's gonna, and the way that you put it over is just so straightforward, mate, and simple, and it's very inspiring for me to listen to, mate. It gives me a lot of hope for a lot of people. But there's 2 things that I've got left, or 2 direct questions that I want to answer. One, I don't really like asking, but people that have suffered from or gone through what you've gone through, I do often ask it, and that's, would you have done things differently?
Earlier on?
If you knew what you know now, would you have done things differently? Would you have taken the drugs? Would you have taken the steroids? Would you have drunk till you stopped? Or would you do things differently?
That's a good question. A very good question. It's funny because when I was sort of 13, 14 years old, I was into athletics then. I actually signed up to an athletic club and I was running 200 meters and high jump and things. And I did actually wonder, obviously now I didn't run then for 15 years and now I love running and things. Like what if I hadn't gone down that path? But as you do start to think about it, but I'm a person, no regrets. What's done is done. And, those things, would I have done it differently if I'd known? That's a good question. You've got me there, mate. They've shaped who I am today. That's the thing. I'm a lot more mentally strong now. I've got a lot more mental resilience. And I think they've shaped me who I am. I don't regret that. I don't regret doing it. But in answer to your question, if I'd known, no, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. I think you've put it in a really good way though there, Ads. Like, it's shaped you and it's life. You can't cry over the spilt milk, as they say. But I think the mature thing is like, no, I probably wouldn't have done it because I'm able to sit here now and look at, it was a little bit silly, but I can't sit. Yeah. I've learned so much from it. I've had to get myself out of a hole. And I guess if you go into another hole of a different type, if that's a good way to put it, you can get yourself out. So I think that's a really good answer, mate. I think you've done well there. It's a shit question. Sorry. Mate, my final question, and this one hopefully is easier to answer and it leaves everything on a good note. Mate, obviously through all of this, you've learned a shit ton. Like,
Absolutely.
you could probably write a book, mate, but we don't have the time for a book. So you have to give us, in parting, your best one single piece of advice from all that you've been through: life, marriage, jobs, drugs, bodybuilding, alcohol. What's the one best piece of advice that you give to people?
Oh, that's a good one. Wish I'd prepared for this one.
The best is when I don't let people. This is why I don't send people show notes for the most part, mate. And we free ride everything. People are like, "Oh, is there no structure?" No, we just talk, and then I hit them with this at the end.
Yeah, I think with everything, quitting alcohol, mindfulness, previous life, everything I'm doing, the goals I've set, everything. When you're making a decision, if it's something, well, okay, let's relate it to alcohol. And I'm going to bring it, we've kind of already discussed it. Let's relate it to alcohol, but think tomorrow. What do you want to do tomorrow? And how do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? How do you want to grow? And how do you want to chill? What do you want to do? And I think a lot of people don't really have that. They're not really, they don't really sort of think like that. So yeah, my biggest, that's what I'd say. So the next time alcohol presents itself, think tomorrow. What do you want to get tomorrow? And is that going to hinder your goal? That's if you have something planned for the next day, whatever it is, whether you're spending time with family or you're going to go for a run or you're going to go smash your 5K PB or whatever. Think tomorrow.
Mate, amazing. Absolutely brilliant. I like that a lot. I like that when you said...
I've always got something planned the next day, and that is only going to crush it. So...
Yeah. Mate, I love that when you said that. You said that last week, I remember, and you've said it a couple of times today. So that's it. There we have it, mate. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You speak. We could sit here we could do a Joe Rogan on this, mate. We could go for 3 hours.
Yeah. 4 hours.
I'm conscious of your time, mate, and I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate you sharing your story again with us, mate. It's I know it's not overly easy, and some of those things are deep, but I'm sure, mate, you've made me think about a lot of things, and I'm sure you'll make a lot of people think about a lot of things, mate. So absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me on. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, thank you.